Have you ever looked at someone in a position of power, a CEO, a politician, a manager, and thought to yourself, with a chilling certainty, how on earth did they get there? We've all witnessed it. The phenomenon of the thoroughly incompetent rising to positions of unimaginable authority, while individuals of far greater capability remain stuck in the shadows. Think of Emperor Nero, fiddling while Rome burned. Think of corporate leaders like Elizabeth Holmes, who built a multi-billion-dollar mirage on technology that never existed. It's a pattern so common, it feels almost deliberate. But what if it is? What if there's a twisted, invisible logic at play? A logic that ensures the least qualified, the most foolish, often end up with the most influence? Today, we journey into the dark heart of power, guided by history's most misunderstood and feared political philosopher, Niccolò Machiavelli. But this isn't just ancient philosophy. This is a deep dive into a psychological phenomenon that shapes our world, from corporate boardrooms to political offices. The uncomfortable truth is that sometimes being smart, ethical, and self-aware is precisely what keeps you from gaining power. By the end of this video, you will not only understand why this happens, you will be equipped with the mental toolkit to see through the illusion and begin to navigate your own path to influence. The Machiavellian paradox. Why competence is a liability in the game of power. When Machiavelli wrote The Prince in the 16th century, exiled from the political life he loved, he wasn't writing a manual for tyrants. He was committing an act of supreme realism, becoming a political physicist, describing the laws of power as they are, not as we wish them to be. He was the first to state a terrifying truth. The arena of power operates on a completely different moral axis than the world of decent human interaction. His core insight, which cuts to the heart of our paradox, is that how we live is so different from how we ought to live, that he who neglects what is done for what ought to be done will sooner effect his ruin and his preservation. This is the great inversion. The intelligent person sees a world of complexity and nuance. The fool sees a simple problem with a simple enemy. The moral person is constrained by ethical considerations. The ruthless person sees an open field of strategic possibilities. The self-aware person is plagued by doubt. The narcissist is buoyed by an unshakable, pathological certainty. In a world drowning in complexity and starved for certainty, who do you think has the advantage? Good people enter the game of power, assuming it's a game of merit. It is not. It is a game of perception, dominance, and psychological warfare. Machiavelli knew that appearing competent is far more important than being competent. Because, as he wrote, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The incompetent don't just stumble into power by accident. They are armed with invisible weapons, psychological principles they may not even consciously understand, but which they wield with devastating effect. To protect yourself, you must first understand their arsenal. The three invisible weapons of the incompetent. Weapon 1. The unbreakable armor of overconfidence. You know this phenomenon as the Dunning-Kruger effect. But it's more than a simple bias. It's a double curse. Not only are the incompetent unaware of their own failings, they are too incompetent to even recognize competence in others. Their ignorance acts as an impenetrable shield. Meanwhile, true experts are acutely aware of the vast ocean of their own ignorance. This leads to intellectual humility, which manifests as caution, nuance, and a willingness to say, "I don't know." In the brutal theater of power, this is fatal. Hesitation is perceived as weakness. Nuance is perceived as confusion. But the bold, simple, and often catastrophically wrong assertion of the overconfident fool sounds like decisive leadership. Consider General Custer, whose supreme confidence led to a military disaster, yet his persona earned him devoted followers. Or in the modern era, look at the tech industry, where founders who speak in absolute, visionary terms secure massive funding over more measured, experienced entrepreneurs. Their unshakable confidence becomes a reality distortion field, attracting investment and a cult-like following. A controversial 2017 study in the Journal of Management confirmed this disturbing trend. It found that intelligence correlates positively with leadership effectiveness only up to an IQ of about 120. Beyond that point, additional intelligence can actually become a hindrance. Why? Because exceptionally intelligent people struggle to simplify their language. Their ideas seem too complex, and they can be perceived as aloof or unrelatable. The fool wears his ignorance like armor, and the world mistakes it for strength. Weapon 2. The irresistible gravity of simplicity. The human brain is a machine that evolved to conserve energy. It is wired for what psychologists call cognitive closure, a deep-seated need for a definitive answer, an end to ambiguity. We hate uncertainty. It feels threatening. The competent, ethical leader is forced to offer a complex reality. This is a difficult problem with no easy solutions, requiring shared sacrifice and inevitable trade-offs. This is intellectually honest, but psychologically unsatisfying. The incompetent or manipulative leader offers a seductive fantasy. The problem is simple, the enemy is clear, and I alone can fix it. Our psychological need for certainty is a gravitational force, pulling us down towards the simplest, most comforting narrative, even when we suspect it's a lie. This isn't a failure of intelligence. A jarring Yale experiment revealed that when presented with complex data, participants' ability to interpret it correctly was directly affected by whether the results aligned with their pre-existing political beliefs. Even more striking, the most mathematically skilled participants showed the strongest bias. They used their intelligence not to find the truth, but to become more effective at justifying their preferred conclusion. This creates a dangerous dynamic. In times of crisis, we don't rally behind the nuanced expert. We rally behind the authoritarian who projects absolute certainty. The one who offers simplicity becomes our leader, not because he is right, but because he is relieving our mental anguish. He is selling us the most addictive drug in the world, certainty. Weapon 3. The self-replicating architecture of mediocrity. Machiavelli gave us the ultimate diagnostic tool. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Weak, insecure leaders are threatened by competence. A players hire a players. But B players hire C players. Insecure leaders don't select for talent. They select for loyalty and non-threatening personalities. They surround themselves with sycophants who will never challenge them, with subordinates even less competent who will never expose their limitations. This creates what organizational scientists call homophily, but we can call it what it is: a competence drought that spreads outwards from central leadership. Think of the court of the Roman Emperor Commodus, where capable administrators were systematically replaced by flatterers and entertainers, accelerating the empire's decline. Think of a modern corporation where the culture of yes-men stifles innovation. Ask yourself, have you ever been in a meeting where you held back a brilliant, challenging idea because you knew it would be perceived as a threat to your superior? This is how they do it. They don't just rise to power. They build an insulated island of mediocrity around them, a fortress protected from the dangerous tides of constructive criticism, objective reality, and genuine talent. Recognizing these weapons is the first step out of the trap. But recognition is not enough. To survive and thrive, you need a counteroffensive. Not by becoming a monster, but by becoming a strategist. 3 pillars of Machiavellian defense. Pillar 1. Forge intellectual sovereignty. Your cognitive immune system. This is your primary shield. It is built from 2 materials. First, intellectual humility, the Socratic and Stoic practice of constantly recognizing the limits of what you know. This is your vaccine against the false certainty of others. Second, active media literacy. Stop being a passive consumer of outrage. Curate an information diet as you would a nutritional one. Reject the noise. Filter for quality over quantity. Ask yourself why a piece of information is being presented to you in a certain way. This builds a cognitive immune system that resists manipulation. Pillar 2. Master strategic awareness. Learn to see the game board. You do not have to cross ethical lines to win, but you absolutely must understand the strategies of those who will. In game theory, this is known as a race to the bottom. When unethical tactics prove successful, others face pressure to adopt them or be left behind. You must study these dark patterns, not to emulate them, but to recognize and neutralize them. Think of it like a martial art. You learn how to defend against all forms of attack. The ethical person who understands unethical tactics is far more formidable than the naive one who is blindsided by them. Pillar 3. Become an architect of a better environment. Incompetence thrives in the dark. It flourishes where feedback is absent, accountability is weak, and complexity can be used as a shield. Therefore, you must become an agent of light. On a personal level, seek out and create environments with robust, immediate feedback loops. In your career, in your projects, demand clarity and measurable outcomes. On a collective level, champion systems of transparency and cognitive diversity. Great civilizations aren't built on charismatic leaders. They are built on robust institutions that resist the pull of human folly. The dual-board corporate governance structure in Germany, for example, separates management from oversight, providing structural resistance to incompetent leadership. Contrast this with the Boeing 737 MAX crisis, where engineers' concerns were ignored in favor of profits because accountability was absent. For centuries, Machiavelli has been misunderstood. He wasn't advocating for the darkness. He was giving us a map of it, a torch to carry through it. He believed that by understanding how power actually works, rather than how we wish it worked, we could begin to build better, more resilient systems of governance. His most profound observation was this: it is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Authority itself deserves no inherent respect. Power must be earned through worthy use, through competence and moral courage. The paradox we started with is not our destiny. It is a vulnerability in our collective psychology. And the intersection of Machiavellian political philosophy and modern psychology reveals the path forward. It's not pretending these dynamics don't exist. It's understanding them so deeply that we can transcend them. It's developing personal practices and designing social systems that account for human weakness rather than exploiting it. Understanding the darkness doesn't mean surrendering to it. It means gaining the power to create light. The systems around us are flawed. The first system you must master is your own mind. If you are ready to begin this work, to see the world as it is, declare it in the comments below. Write, "I will see the strings." Join the strategists. And subscribe for more tools to navigate the chaos.